What?
You know what, Sam?
What?
We're live, and it's time to talk about the playoffs.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are live. And Sam, we're going to be doing a playoff preview of the Canes versus the Devils. So it's going to be fun. And Sam, we're going to have a guest, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're going to have a guest, maybe a couple more guests, but really today is about talking about the playoffs, previewing the Devils series and the playoffs as a whole. It's going to be a real fun time. Everyone's going to enjoy themselves. And our
And
first guest looks like he's already popped on.
what's up, Tim?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can.
All right,
how's it
perfect.
going?
It's going well.
You ready for some
It,
playoff hockey in Raleigh?
of course. I mean, how are you going to ask on the opener day? How's it going? I mean, that's as like the answer as it comes, right?
I
Yep.
figured we'd give you a softball to start out before we got before
All
we
right,
get into the meat of
you,
it.
you've warmed me up. Let's get to the hard stuff now.
All right, so we're going into the playoffs. Some might say we're maybe limped into the playoffs a little bit. Just hasn't been the best last few games. What's your overall impression of the team just moving into the playoffs?
As far as limping in, like it almost was by choice, right? Like they were going up against teams that were playing their NHL lineups and were rolling out AHL guys over the last couple. So I'm not worried about the skaters' momentum. I am a little worried about the goaltenders' momentum because those guys are the guys, right? It's been Freddie, it's been Piotr, and they're the ones that are kind of coasting on in. So I'm not worried about oh, they didn't score enough when the lines were featuring a bunch of AHL players that you're not going to see. But I am a little worried about some of the softies that were let up.
Speaking of the goaltending, do you think, like, once we hit the playoffs, I mean, I know hope isn't a strategy, but you think once we hit the playoffs, you think somehow like Anderson, Kachekov, they'll somehow just get dialed in just because of how the playoffs are like.
It's part of the great part about sports, right? You're the guy that can't win the big one until you win the big one, and then everyone calls you clutch for the rest of your life. So yeah, something's gonna have to be different. Like I mean, I think it's Freddie's net. I think most people understand that for the majority of the games. And Freddie is a guy that's been really solid, really good in the regular season, and maybe has made the few errors in the postseason that you can't make. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking for Freddie to do something different than he's done in the past. I don't like change up your breakfast. I don't know, like do and 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 sometimes it's you see this across every sport, right? You hit a certain age, you hit a certain amount of failures that you flip the bleep it switch and you're like, I don't care anymore, and then you go play the best hockey of your life, best goal of your life. So yeah, I do think they're going to need something that we haven't seen from Freddie and or Piotr in net. But I mean, we've seen it in the past where guys, you don't know what it is, they level up for whatever reason and then change their reputation.
So you know how Adam Gold has kind of looked at the playoffs. He says you need Freddie and PK, or you're not going anywhere in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think the team can ride Freddie, or do you think for this team to make a deep run, Kochekhov's going to have to show up?
I I think you can get through round one without Piotr. But like the funny part is in the regular season we've seen it, that little 1-1-1-1 rotation seems to bring out the best in Freddie, which is puts Rod in a really tough situation because if you have one guy that's playing better, you want to ride him. But if the reason that one guy is playing better is because you're giving every other game to the second guy, it's like a rock in a hard place. So I think they'll probably ride Freddie. It's just outside of Rod's norm to really mix it up that much. But I wouldn't, you know, Pyotr Kochekhov's got a little crazy in his eyes, right? Like he's got a little bit of that what the heck is going on here move. So if there's a lull and you need a spark, I think you're way more likely to get that from Pyotr Kochetkov than Freddie. So it's a lot of coaching with your instinct. It's a lot of pulling the string at the right time, pressing the button at the right time, and I think Pyotr might be the right string to pull. It's just like I don't think you're going to know when that time is until like you got to do it right now. It's impulsive almost.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Devils for a minute. Obviously, they have their best player in Jack Hughes out for
Yep.
this series. Uh, but I mean, obviously, the Hurricanes are the favorites
Mhm.
heading in. Is there a way you could see New Jersey somehow getting this to at least Game 7 or win it? Like, what do you see with New Jersey there?
To me, there's one big thing in favor of the Devils. I could list. We could sit here and it'd probably be more fun. We could list 10 things in favor of the Canes, but power play, right? The Devils have one of the best power plays in the league. They both are elite at penalty kill 1 and 2. But obviously the Canes this year haven't been as good on the power play. So I'm talking to everyone, but I'm talking to Svetch, right? I'm talking to everyone, but I'm talking to like no double penalties. Stay out of the box if you can. Don't give them the opportunity to find a spark on their power play because it's one of the things they do really well. And then like Nico and Brat, like have a few guys that have stepped up in Hughes's absence. You're not going to make up for Hughes being out, but they have a couple guys since Hughes's injury that have been over a point per game. So it's this isn't catching like I don't know I'm trying to think of a good example here. It's harder in hockey, but this isn't catching a team where like everything is built around one person and then that guy's out. They're still really good defensively. They still have a couple guys that can score. I think they're fifth in the league in goals allowed per game. So they do some good things. This is not a pushover. With all that being said, I still think the Canes are heavily favored for a reason, and they should be.
Yeah, I agree. My view on this series is, and where I'll disagree with your colleague Adam on, I think this is a 5-game series. I don't have any belief in New Jersey. I don't view them as much better than they were 2 years ago when we played them. They've added Markstrom, but I mean, if you look at Markstrom before he joined New Jersey, he wasn't much to laugh at. He wasn't much of a goalie in Calgary. So I don't view them as much. I think Dougie's walkable. I doubt Brett Pesci is healthy. I don't think he was ever really healthy his last couple years in Carolina. As much as he's as healthy maybe as he's ever going to be for New Jersey, but I view New Jersey's defense as slow, as walkable, and their offense without Jack Hughes is, I think our offensive players are all better than any of their offensive players if you do one for ones.
I agree with that as well, and I would say the ideal is probably 5, just because hopefully that means Nikishin gets one more game to work himself into the mix. So I think the Canes are like I said overwhelmingly better. I do want to give a shout out to our guy Steph Nason, right? We talked about the power play. The one thing that the Canes may be missing in that kind of one for one comparison is a true net front grimy dude. We've seen some try, and it's a size thing for some of them. Like I think Stankoven, almost mixed them, almost said Stankowski. If Stankoven, I think if he were 210 pounds, he would love just being a net front grimy dude, but he's not that. So you almost have the mental, but you don't have the like physical presence there. And we know what Steph Nason does, right? Power play, you see it. He's going to be there trying to muck it up.
Yeah, you mentioned the physical aspects. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing about playoffs is physicality and all that type of stuff. I mean, when you look at the size of these two teams, who do you think has the most physicality, tenacity, physicalness between Hurricanes and the Devils?
This is probably unusual for Canes in the postseason, especially. I think it's probably pretty close. It's funny because everyone's talking. I brought him up the Nikishin deal. When do you play him? How often do you play him? All that sort of thing. I'm thinking playoff hockey is so darn physical. I love having 8 defensemen that you trust because you might need 8 defensemen, right? I'm including Morrow in that. I love having, once Carrier comes back, who brings all that physicality. Who's going to be the forward that has to step off? Is it Roslovic? Is it this guy? I'm going, I love having 13 or 14 forwards that you trust because it's going to be physical hockey and, knock on every kind of piece of wood you have. But, if you need them, I think that the depth favors the Canes in most matchups, even in ones where, they're going to be like, I don't want to say unphysical because I love some of the smaller guys they have, but they're just giving up size in a lot of places. It's part of the Canes evaluation, right? They don't tend to hold size against prospects as much as other teams. So you end up with Jarvis and Stankoven and Blake and some of these guys that are a little smaller. So it's probably pretty even against the Devils. I think they'd be at a size and physicality disadvantage probably any series after this, but they have the depth to maybe weather the storm.
So we've kind of hinted around Nikishin a few times. He's the big X factor, I think, because you
He's
just
ready.
don't know.
He knows hockey.
Yes, he does.
and I loved that that dude. He wants to play, and that's just from that video. He wants to play,
Mhm.
and I think where I would want if we can go up 3-0 in the series, I think that's when he really gets an opportunity because you can play him in a game 4 in New Jersey, but I think when you look at playing him, I think you got to get him a game for one reason and one reason alone. Your next opponent is most likely going to be Washington.
Mhm.
And Tom Wilson, Alex Ovechkin, a big, a bad, a dirty, as we've seen, team in Washington. And I think if you can get Nikishin to play a game in New Jersey, see what he is, if he fits in seamlessly, which I think a lot of people think he will, you could put him out there and dare Tom Wilson to do something. Because Nikishin's the one guy on the roster who's probably maybe a little feisty, has got a mean streak in him.
Well, first of all, I think I'm a little like quicker with the trigger than you. I've said the moment you get a 2-game lead in this series, you put Nikishin in. If it's 2-0, throw him in. If it's 3-1, throw him in. I think he's, for everything you just said, I think he's important to like raising the ceiling of the team. And I saw this it was almost a meme, I don't know, and it wasn't mine, so don't give me credit for it. It was somewhere online, where after the first Caps game where they had all the UFC situation in the third, it said tired. Jalen Chatfield's going to have to answer to Tom Wilson on Thursday because they were playing the following Thursday. Then it said wired. Tom Wilson's going to have to answer to Alexander Nikishin the next Thursday. And it is true to give kind of the Canes that dude who, all right, if you mess with us, we have a 6'4", 220-pound Russian, just like you have a 6'4", 220-pound Tom Wilson. So, yeah, I think you play him. I think the more interesting conversation is who goes out, because I love playing him with Chatfield because Chatfield appears to be somebody that is good at covering for guys that are a little out of position. And not saying Nikishin's like doesn't know hockey. He knows hockey, but it's a new system. And if he catches himself a little out of stride, Chatfield's kind of used to being the guy that fills in the cracks. So obviously that opens it up to Orlov not being in, which seems crazy based on salary and experience. But there you go. That's I mean, those are the conversations that I'm sure they are talking about as much as we are behind closed doors.
Well, I mean, what do you think about taking Orlov out and putting Nikishin in?
I'm watching him in the 5-on-3 in game 82, where they killed it, was like, I'm going like, oh man, he's going to make me fall in love with him right now, isn't he? And it's going to make this conversation. I was so comfortable with it. Now I'm right back. He's reeled me back in. I don't want. The hard part is you look at the left, right? You have Slavin going nowhere. You have Ghost, who's he's quarterback in the second power play unit. I think it's got to be Orlov, right? It's almost not his fault. It's got to be Orlov if you're putting Nikishin in. Burns is who everybody wants to come out. Like that's kind of the fan base decision there.
Yeah.
I don't realistically see Rod going that direction. He and Burns are almost like they're buddy. So like he just gave him 24 seconds to keep the streak going. Like that kind of loyalty isn't matched to the next game with like, sorry buddy, you're out. So yeah, it's probably Orlov by default. But again, that decision might be made for you, right? If Nikishin doesn't play game 1 and somebody gets a boo-boo, then all right, boom, decision made. And we did all this haggling and worrying for no reason.
Do you think so with Burns last year, and I've talked about this, after last year's playoffs where he was just an absolute eyesore, along with Freddie towards the end of the playoffs, I can honestly say I haven't moved past that. So, and I this whole season, and I know Burns hasn't been as bad as I think everyone has maybe laid on him, and I'm one of the ones who's laid on him being awful this year.
Yep.
I can't get out of my head he was a liability in the playoffs.
You're not wrong. And there's kind of two different conversations here, right? It's what do you think Rod will do, and like what would you do if you were Rod? So part of me is like, we can sit here and argue about the merit of sitting Burns all we want, but when in reality, we could argue about the Empire State Building falling over in a stiff breeze. Like it's just not it's not going to happen. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think Burns would be the first to tell you some of those games in last year's postseason, right? When he watched him back, wasn't super jacked up about the way he played, and that's something he has to live with, and you hope that he plays a little bit better this year.
Yeah. Also, I want to go back to New Jersey for a second, just because I think the goaltending battle, I think, is going to be interesting. I think if New Jersey somehow does win, it's probably going to goaltending. I think is going to be a huge thing.
It's a great equalizer in hockey. Like most upsets come with some dude that decided I'm going to go supernova right now in goal, and that's how it happens.
Yeah. So would you choose Markstrom over Freddie / Kachekov, or like what do you view that versus that comparison?
I mean, I think they are all like I have this saying with quarterbacks, which is there's only like a handful of inevitable quarterbacks on planet Earth. Everyone else is situational, which means like you can pick up Pat Mahomes and put him on any roster, they're going to be a good offense. Most guys, there's something they need, right? If you're slow-footed, you need a line. If you're strong-armed, you need a fast receiver, whatever. There's something you need to be successful. I think all three of these guys, actually, I'll go Freddie and Markstrom, I think are situational. They're almost as good as the blue line playing in front of them. Piotr, at his best, I do think has the ability to erase mistakes. He can do some break dancing in net and do some crazy stuff, the poke checks and everything. But then you also get the negative side of that. So, I mean, if you make me choose, I think nobody's trading. Right? If you ask the Devils, would you rather have Freddie? I don't think they're saying, no, then I'll keep Markstrom. I think if you ask the Canes, would you rather have Markstrom? I think they're keeping Freddie. And then if you are just a super risky person, if you're somebody that hits on 17, you're going, I want Pyotr Kochetkov. But that says more about you than it does about them.
Yeah, I mean,
that was a cop-out answer. I guess I'll take Freddie. Like I'll that was a no answer, but I'll take Freddie to answer it.
So when it comes to I guess the playoffs as a whole, where this season wasn't supposed to be anything great. I think it was a realistic thought because just what left versus what came in, there was a clear.
You're talking preseason.
Difference. Yep. So preseason, we know what came in. We know the thought. All right, this team's going to be, they're probably a playoff team, but I'm not expecting much. But they, out of the gate, were hot. Cooled off a little bit, little drama with Mikko Rantanen, figured it out. Stankoven and Jankowski come in. They're unbelievable. We're kind of going into the playoffs like, okay, let's see what we've got. All right, we can beat New Jersey. Oh, maybe we can get lucky. Montreal beats Washington. Do you think there's a path to the finals for this team?
Are you talking conference finals or Stanley Cup finals?
Stanley Cup finals.
I wish you would have answered that question, conference finals. Yeah, so here's the thing. Like you kind of glazed over the there's that drama with Mikko Rantanen. As soon as you trade for Rantanen, regardless of what happened since, you're saying this is a roster that can contend, right? You don't make all-in trades like that unless you're looking at everything else and saying you might not have thought that preseason, but with the hot streak, with the way like Roslovic was scoring early on, there were a couple guys that caught heaters. That's you announcing we expect to go deep. Now, the way the Mikko Rantanen situation played out, obviously reels some of that back in. But there is a path. I wouldn't say it's likely. I will say I'm much easier path through the East than the West. So take that for what it's worth. And I think if you get Canes Caps in the second round, as much as that is a discrepancy in how they've played this year, with the history and with the how those last two games went, I don't think it's outlandish to think you can almost draw them into a game that you want to play and see how that goes. So there's a path. I wouldn't say it's likely, but there's a path.
We talked about Rantanen there. trade when we got
The
him,
acquisition or the departure?
the acquisition.
Okay.
What did you think of that trade? Because just to me, looking at the season as a whole, it felt like management thought this team was as good as that hot start, and which is why they traded for Mikko Rantanen. So, what's your take on that?
I mean, I'm on the record. At the time, I loved it. I think there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we were not privy to. Uh, if he were all in Carolina, I still think it's a good trade. I think it's pretty obvious he was not all in on Carolina,
No.
which just ruined the whole thing. And also, it's not like he's lighting it up in Dallas. Uh, I don't pretend to be the best evaluator. Watching every Canes game's a commitment. Watching the games in the division becomes the next priority. Watching Colorado Avalanche games was never my I got to watch every game and know what these guys are doing. But I assumed based on the production that this dude was a super stud, and I still think he can be. But I think it was a mixture of he's not as good as we thought. A little bit of a McKinnon merchant, as they say on the Twitter. I think he was not all in on Carolina. I think he thought it was a bluff by everybody to even threaten to make him go there. And then it probably was a little over their skis for the Canes of as far as he'll just plop in and play great with Aho because they're both Finnish. So a little bit of all of that added into not a great trade, but you pivoted out of it pretty well. You got value back. If you do the whole transitive property, where if you just remove Rantanen from the equation and you look at what you traded Jack Drury and Natchez to get, I think it's a win. So I loved the trade at the time. I was proven pretty darn wrong by how it went in Carolina.
I think we all were.
And then they saved it at the end. So I'm fine with it. I think Eric Tulsky's wheeling and dealing and the no fear element of it actually impressed me.
I like the risk. I do.
So I want to talk about the player that the more important player that we got, which was Taylor Hall, and that deal because
The beginning, thank you for saying that.
Oh, from the beginning,
Yes.
Taylor Hall was better. Taylor Hall wanted to be here. Taylor Hall tried.
Taylor Hall needs to get signed to an extension. We can say it all.
So that's what I was about to ask you. Do you think there's everyone's talk, all the insiders, Jeff Merrick, Elliot Friedman, have all said, "Oh, there's a deal there. Why isn't it signed yet?" It's like, well, what's going on? What's the hang up? Why isn't he at a Hurricane for the rest of his career yet?
It's weird because have you been out to the Lenovo Center since the last week?
No.
Okay, there's a giant poster for the NHL playoffs out there with 4 faces on it. And Andrei Svechnikov is not one of them. Jordan Stahl is not one of them. Taylor Hall is one of them.
Wow.
So that's me looking into something that's probably insignificant, way too much. But they understand the importance of that guy. When the second line, I expect it to be, and I haven't seen, any Walt Ruff tweets yet. I expect it to be Svech, Kokeniemi, and Hall. And I need Hall to carry the line. He's going to be the creator there. He's the one that's going to drag the other guys along. So I think he's wildly important. I also think it might be it might just be they all know it's going to happen. And it's just trust. Taylor Hall feels like he wants to put down roots. He's been to a billion teams. The Canes kind of understand his importance. But also, I don't know. It might be a structure thing. It might, I don't know what the last hurdle to get over is. But I'm going to keep saying he needs to be extended. I'm going to keep probably worrying that he won't be extended. And then when it happens, I'm going to go, of course, we all knew it was going to happen this whole time. He wants to be here. They want him here. Why would it not? So I'm kind of optimistically extremely cautious.
Yeah, and also, I mean, with the departure of Rantanen, we got Stinkov and Yankowski. Who's been your favorite amongst not just those guys, but all the new guys that we brought in? Probably.
We just mentioned. I think Taylor Hall is the most important.
I would agree.
But I like Stanky, man.
Yeah.
Not just. I mean, once you push Tom Wilson, it's automatically boom, to the top of the leaderboard. But one of the goals he scored, I forget which one it was. He scored and then obviously, celebrate with the other guys on the ice. And when they zoomed in too far on him and everyone else's head was cut off on the screen and you saw his full upper torso because they're just And I was like, oh man, they're doing him dirty with the zoom in, right? They need to give this guy like the wide shot so you can see everybody. But I do, it's kind of the Jarvis thing where it's just like if you're that awesome and you're 5'8", then I'm just gonna like you more. If he looked like Svetch, I don't think he'd be as likable. It would be like, yeah, it makes sense that you're contributing to a postseason run before you're even a rookie. It makes sense that now you're depended upon by a team like the Canes as a rookie. But I like him, and I like his little, coming out for the 3 stars after that game with in his
Oh
sweats,
yeah, yep.
like he's appealing to the fans. He knows what he's doing, so I like Stanky.
Yeah, I mean,
And by the way, I just
so
want to give a shout out to Mark Yankowski as well, because I didn't mention him, and that's just because he's, I mean, if a guy that shows up with like, what do you have, like 2 career goals, exaggerating, but kind of, and then you score a billion as soon as you show up, like I'm gonna like that guy as well.
so when it comes to Mark Yankowski, and his competition, which I think right now might be KK, what do you think what do you think him coming in and producing really, really well, and then you've got KK who's been producing, like
Do you know what's the best thing I can say about KK? And I said this on my show the other day. The biggest compliment I have of him, like the last month, is he has really good chemistry with Taylor Hall. Those two seem to see the ice the same way, and I think that's important. Like I think they're both going to be on the ice. I don't think Mark is going to end up a healthy scratch or anything like that. But I think you give the nod to Kotkaniemi just off of talent and also how much you're paying him. With the idea that Rod's never been afraid to shake up lines, at an intermission. So if KK's having one of those KK games where he's turning it over a bunch, you can limit his minutes a decent amount by flipping it around.
So back to the playoff series. What is your betting person for the Canes? Like, you think is that wild card, that X factor that could wow
Okay.
us?
We call I call these if then statements where you throw if blank happens, then blank happens. And it's always like if blank, then Canes win the series in 5 or better.
Mhm.
I'd go with if, can I give a line?
Yeah, sure, if you want to.
To me, it's the second line. If you get production out of the second line, anything you get from your fourth line, like if Jankowski scores 2, that's just great, right? Stall line's going to do the stall line thing. I'm wildly confident in Naho Jarvis right now. Buzzing, chemistry, everything else they have going on. And even if Blake has like a wide-eyed rookie moment, those 2 guys should be fine up there. It's that second line, man, and it's you're not going to win the postseason unless you have 2 elite scoring lines, and it comes down to those guys we just mentioned. Svetch, right? He looked. Thank goodness we had game 82 for him, or else I'd be so worried. Thank goodness we had the one shot, right? Just the one confident one timer to make me go, all right, it's still there. Taylor Hall, who we all just talked about how important he is, and KK. That's how I see the second line rolling. If those guys, I'm not asking for the world. If they give me just solid play and a little production, I think Canes win this one in 5 or less.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Devils, like I think Jack Hughes not being there matters. I think this playoff is closer with Jack Hughes. That's 100 points. That's not in your lineup. That's big.
Oh, it's what do you have? He had 70 and 62 this year, 70 points in 62 games or something like that. And they play a bit of a grinded out style. No, you're not gonna, when ironically, when do you remember when the Miko second trade was happening? There was like a minute where people were saying the Devils were calling, and I was literally like, "It's Jack Hughes or nobody." Like, I'm not sending him in division. I'm not sending him unless you give me like somebody I absolutely love, and Jack Hughes was that. Now, I was obviously joking, but it was to show, like, I'm a big fan of Jack Hughes.
So obviously you said Jack Hughes is a favorite, one of your favorites on the Devils. Is there another player that you really like on the Devils other than Jack Hughes? I mean, there's Jesper Bratt.
Yeah,
Obviously, we
I
talked
like
about
Brad.
Hische.
That's where I was going to go. I like guys that sees opportunities, and it felt like he got more aggressive when Hughes went down, um, which I always kind of appreciate that. Like in, uh, if when Svetch is out and a winger starts higher usage, I like that. So, um, yeah, I'll go. I guess I'll go Brad Jesper. By the way, I have like I for part of my childhood I was in Jersey, so I've got a ton of friends that are Devils fans, and they're just if they're listening right now, they're screaming names that I should like, and I'm going like, nope, don't like him, nope, not him either. Or actually, no, if we're talking personal favorites, I like Nason. I was a big fan of him, and he was one of the guys that left that I don't really blame. It's like yeah, I think it made sense.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like like Sam and I are trashing New Jersey. They have a lot of players I like too, and it's not like I don't like Dougie Hamilton. Loved Dougie when he was in Carolina. Loved Nason. Loved Pesci. I'm speaking like realistic things that I saw from them when they were in Carolina, right?
Don't make me out to be the guy that came on the Canes podcast and defended the Devils. I think the Canes. I think the Canes are way better than the Devils. Like,
Oh no,
don't get me wrong at all.
no, completely agree. And I've never really, and I like again, I like Hische, I like Bratt, like Hughes. Like there's a lot of players on that roster that I like. And I think all three of us are being pretty clear. It's like when you compare the rosters without Jack Hughes, the Carolina Hurricanes are objectively better. I think the one area maybe where New Jersey could have a leg up could be goaltending. Depends on what Markstrom they get. Depends on what Freddie Anderson we get. And that's not a a knock on either franchise, but it's just a reality. I don't view the Devils as much different than they were 2 years ago.
Facts. I'm fine with all that. It's not like they're my favorite. It's more. I don't know why I remember this. I want to say like Ben Affleck was on Conan like 15 years ago, and he's a diehard Boston fan, right? Good Will Hunting, all that stuff. And somehow they got talking about Jeter, and he was like, "Oh, I hate that guy, but I do like once a season look around at my buddies and go like, sure would be nice to have a guy like that on the squad. Like it's like you can hate a guy while also acknowledging like, oh, he does a few things on the ice that I like. So there's a lot of guys on the Caps where I'm like, all right, I get it. Like I see why they like him, but I hate that guy. So it's I think the Canes are way more talented. I kind of agree with you that it's not a huge difference from where they were a couple years ago. And I think Jack Hughes being out is a game changer. We'd be talking about this series way different if he was playing.
Last question for you, because I know you gotta head out.
Happy Easter to everybody, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, happy
absolutely.
Easter.
Who is your Stanley Cup champion? Is it? I doubt it's Carolina, which is understandable. Who do you think's going to win the cup?
Are we going heart or brain here?
Brain. I want brain. We all know the heart. The heart wants what the heart wants. Yeah. So let's go with brain.
Right. I think the champion comes out of the West. I'll go Vegas.
Vegas. Okay.
I'll go Vegas. Little spice there. I just think they're there's a lot of experience there. They're a tough team, and I think whoever comes out of the West will be battle tested as heck.
I think that is a fair assessment. The bracket that I made with my brain, I have a Western Conference team winning it as well.
Have you announced it, or is this like a big secret that we're teasing? Can I hear?
No. Yeah, I picked Winnipeg.
Okay. Oh, sorry, St. Louis. Like celebrate making the postseason, right? Like, good year.
I have Winnipeg in 5. I just sorry.
Like I'm not against it, right? Like that was right at the beginning of a hot streak for the Canes, right? They beat Winnipeg, and I was like, I think beating Winnipeg like gave them the confidence to win like their next 7 games. It was they're that kind of team. So I'm fine with that. By the way, the best team rarely wins a Stanley Cup final, right? I almost like eliminate the best because I'm like that's too earned. Let's go with like the second or third best and see if they can't steal one.
I picked Colorado.
Hey, big Nature's fan, are you?
I am a big Nature's fan.
Yeah. That as far as like Canes are like that's the series I want to watch the most. Outside of that, Dallas, Colorado, I will be tuned in.
Oh yeah.
I completely agree. Well, Tib, thanks for joining us again. Sorry we kept you a little over.
Oh, you're good.
time, but enjoy game one tomorrow. Are you going to be able to go?
I'm trying to. We'll see. We'll see if I've got a 2 month old and a 4 year old. So if
Oh boy.
everything's a okay on the home front, I might make my way out there. But we will be. If you guys are going out to the Tuesday game, we're going to be doing our show live starting at 3 from the concourse, and then we'll just be walking on in and taking in the game. So we do first goal score predictions. You can walk up and make them and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can shake hands and see you in person.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. We'll try to make it out there.
Sweet. And now all your listeners as well, stop by, say hi. I can pass stuff along to the Sams if you want me to.
We would
Yes,
appreciate it.
we would.
Absolutely. All
There you go.
right. Thank you, Teb. You have a great Easter, great weekend, great playoff weekend as well.
Sounds good. Let's do this again soon.
Sounds good. See ya.
All right, see you.
Well, that was
Sam,
fun, Sam.
yeah, that was fun. I really enjoyed it, and we have quite a bit of people watching us. So
Yeah, so thanks for everyone tuning in. We're talking Carolina Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. And again, we're not, because I'm sure we've got some Devils fans probably watching. This is not a trashing of your organization. It is just a reality. We don't think you've changed much since 2 years ago. I think the Devils have one of the top best players in the league, and Jack Hughes, he's not there. And I'm sure a lot of Devils fans will agree that that's a big piece that's missing.
yes. Well, Sam, you know what? How about we go to a sponsor, and then we'll come back and talk more about the playoff preview. The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high skates drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Alrighty, Sam. So I said this question to Tim, but I'm going to say it to you, and I'll say mine after. But who is your dark horse for this team? I know Tim said a line. I mean, if you want to say a line too, that's fine. But is there like a specific type
Svechnikov.
of player?
Yeah, Svech.
Okay, Svech. All right.
Yes, it's got to be Svech, right? You need that offensive production. You need that player coming in and doing his job, coming in and playing like he can. And I think that's what you need. And I love he's a fan favorite, and I think everyone knows that Svech is a fan favorite. And what you need is for him to get going, and I think he can. I really do. I think this is the matchup that he is built to do well in. So
I do too.
if Svech can't get going against the Devils, then I don't know what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Svech is very vital. To me, for my player that's a dark horse, I'm going to pick Stankoven. I could see him blossom in the playoffs. So
yeah, he can. I mean, it's possible. He did really well last year for Dallas.
Yes, he did. And I think another player that's going to be interesting because we have not seen him in the playoffs for us before is Carrier. Because Yeah, because he's won a Stanley Cup with Vegas, and he was instrumental. So it's going to be very interesting. Sam, we do have a couple of comments here actually. So uh, J Rex said hi, hi, and Sawyer Newsom says hi from Chicago. Go Canes and go Wolves.
Yeah, we are cheering for the Wolves with Scott Morrow, Bradley Nadeau, and everyone else in Chicago. That is our young guys, and we want to see them succeed and get a lot of playoff experience in Chicago.
Yes, definitely. Sam, another question here is which player on the Canes team are you most excited for? We talked
Taylor
about
Hall.
our dark horses. Taylor Hall.
Taylor Hall.
Okay.
Taylor Hall. I love Taylor Hall. I think he's a heck of a hockey player. This is what this is what he's going to do. He's going to show up, and he's going to be a guy that if he is on fire, this team is going to go far. I really believe that
I do too.
with Taylor Hall.
I think another player, and this is a player that I'm going to bring up, I'm most excited to see is Jackson Blake.
Yeah, Jackson Blake. This is his first playoffs. He's a rookie. It's going to be exciting to see kind of what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. He's obviously going to be playing on that first line with Aho Jarvis. He could blossom against a team like New Jersey because when you look at New Jersey's DNA, they're not like a Washington team. They're not the big brutalizing team. So I think a playoff series like this could really benefit Blake.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Now, another question here. Which player on the New Jersey side of things, Sam, are you most concerned with?
Steph Nason.
Steph Nason. Okay.
So you probably think, oh, why Steph Nason? Well, you saw how he played in Carolina. He's a net front guy. Our goaltending is already a bit shaky, as is. Let alone sticking a guy like that in front of your net doesn't make their job any easier. So I think Steph Nason, where he might not be the guy who's getting the goals, but he's going to be the guy who's directly responsible for a lot of the goals happening.
Yes, the player that I'm mostly concerned about, I would probably say is. See, I don't find anybody threatening with Jack Hughes out on New Jersey, but the only player I could see threatening, because I think I'll argue he's probably faster than Jack Hughes, is Jesper Bratt.
Mm.
Especially, I mean, I think Brind'Amour's going to do good with the lineup matches with New Jersey, but Sam, I probably am going to be just a little bit nervous if, let's say, we have. I mean, again, I say just a little bit, but what if there's a situation where somehow, I don't see this happening, where Orlov and Burns are out there going up against New Jersey's top line.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens there. I mean, again, just remember we'll dictate the matchups in 4 of the 7.
Yes,
If it goes full 7, we dictate those matchups. But if you win one in New Jersey, I think that really spells the end of it, because I think Carolina can win both games at home. But if you win one in New Jersey, win game 3 or game 4, I think that really just spells the end of that series ending in that 4 or 5 games as expected. I think where at least I'm expecting this series to end.
Yeah, I'm expecting this series to end in 6 games. But I mean, we talked about exciting players to see in this series. But do you think that there is a player that will struggle against the Devils?
The New Jersey's a fast team, so
They are.
you'd have to probably look at Orlov or Burns as a possible there. Just because Burns can get walked and so can Orlov, and those are your 2 older guys on the blue line.
You could say Anderson too, probably.
I'm trying not to view it that way right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
Goaltending, I can't think. I don't want to think about it. Yeah, I mean that's kind of my thought at the moment. Is that's how that's going to go, but it can change.
Yeah, it definitely can, because I mean, Orlov and Burns, they're not the fastest skaters, so there is some concern there. But wouldn't you say, Sam, even with that concern, that it's not at the fear factor area? It's more of just like a concernish type of thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, completely.
Yes. And another question here is, Uh, which player do you think on the other side, on the Devils, is going to struggle with us the most?
Dougie Hamilton.
Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, well, we've seen it
Yeah,
before. I mean, we
we
saw it when
have.
we played him last time. I loved again. This is not Dougie hate. I love Dougie Hamilton. He was one of my favorite former Hurricane players. It's just a reality that he just doesn't play well in the playoffs. It's an unfortunate reality, but it is a reality. He's not a playoff player. He just doesn't, for some reason, able to turn it on. Maybe that changes this time, and of course that can happen. You never know, but it's just we'll have to wait and see.
Well, looking at the record against us in the playoffs, I thought you might say Eric Holla.
I don't even want to give. I don't even want to talk about Eric Holla. I'll boo him. That's all that matters. Is we'll boo Eric Holla every time he touches the puck. No one likes Eric Holla.
Yeah, no Hurricanes fan does like Eric
Nope.
Holla, but Sam, I am pulling up our notes here, but I mean we look at the top three forwards for each team. I mean, you could definitely. I mean, comparing those our four top forwards to their three top forwards, would you get? I did not add Jack Hughes, of course, but who would you give an edge to? Like
Carolina.
Carolina when it comes to the
Yeah.
top three with Aho, Jarvis, and Svetch.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
I
I mean,
do. I
I can
really
see the
do.
argument for the Devils because I mean, even with Hughes out, you have Brad who got 88 points.
Sure, but Aho always plays really well in the playoffs. These are
He does.
players where Brad, Shea, Meyer don't have the most playoff experience, but Aho, Jarvis, Svetch do. So for me, that matters a great deal. So that's how I'm viewing this, is not just that where the points are very close. I think Carolina's in a better position with that experience.
I do too, and I think one thing the Devils could argue for is that they probably do the top players do score probably a little bit more, and I can see that. But I also would say this, and I think kind of aligns with what you just said, Sam. Hurricanes top forwards, I think, are more complete forwards than New Jersey's
Yes,
forwards are.
completely
So
agree.
now we look at the defensemen, Sam, and obviously you have Slavin, Burns, Orlov, and Chatfield, who are kind of our top four. But what's great about that is, I mean, you look at the bottom pair, that's really good too with Walker and Ghost.
Yeah.
Obviously, top four for Devils is Hughes, Hamilton, Pesci, and Jonathan Kovic. I'm going to butcher that name. Sam, can you help me out here? Kovac, Jonathan
Kovacevic, I think.
Kovacevic. Yeah, there you go. Thank you on that. But you look at that defenseman for the Devils. I mean, I could see the pain of going against the most, probably Brett Pesci.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, we saw with Luke Hughes. I mean, I'm not saying that he hasn't progressed, but you look at Luke Hughes in the last playoff matchup that we had against the Devils. I mean, yeah, I didn't think he looked good at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I mean, Luke Hughes he was a rookie. He's getting better. We'll have to wait and see. I think as you look on the Devils, it's clear their defense produces more points than ours, but I think ours defensively is better, and I think that's shown in the stats, right? Goals against, Carolina is 7th to 4th. I mean, it's close. It's close, right? It's just the offense is kind of there for their defense, I think.
Yes, I would agree with that. And just looking at some stats here, Sam, for the goals for department, I know this is regular season, and regular season doesn't matter when you start the playoffs, but
Yeah.
it's what you have to go off by. So, goals for Hurricanes, 259 goals for. They're 10th overall with the Devils. To me, this was a little bit shocking, just a little bit. But 240 goals, and they were 19th in the NHL. Sam, I think part of that is they had a hot start. New Jersey did.
Yep.
And then once Jack Hughes got hurt toward the end of last year, to be honest, it started to go south for New Jersey fast.
Yeah, it did. But I mean, what I really think what's fascinating is the power play and penalty kill. Uh, I mean, you're looking at a and this is the scary. This is where this could become messy. Is New Jersey has a very good power play. We don't, and then we're talking about the first and the second penalty kill in the league going up against each other.
Yes. So, I mean, our penalty kill, I still think it's really, really good. But
Yeah,
Sam, I mean, part of how we have gotten eliminated in the past in the playoffs is special teams, and I'm not
yep,
just talking about the power play, but the penalty kill has gotten bad too. So, I mean, we talked about this with Tim, but a key thing for Carolina is to stay out of the box.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree because that's what matters, especially when you look at their power play as being leaps and bounds better than ours.
Yeah, definitely. And also too, for those of you guys that are watching, if you want to leave a comment and or ask a question, feel free to. We'll probably stay on here for probably a few more minutes and then we'll leave. But the last thing I do want to talk about, again, we talked a lot about this with Tim, but Markstrom and Jake Allen, Sam against Kachekov and Anderson. Honestly, I could see New Jersey doing a little bit of what we might do with our goalies. Markstrom, you're first to go, but if you're not doing well, Jake Allen, you're coming in. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think you're going to be in a position for both teams where, Freddie goes in, plays well game one, game two, game three, he lays a dud. Okay, Kochetkov head on in. It's just, or maybe you play game one and Anderson plays really, really bad. It's like, oh boy, time to move to Kochetkov. I think that's the case. Or Markstrom comes in, plays really well. Game one, they still lose. He plays game two, he plays really, really bad. They go to New Jersey, game three, it's Jake Allen. I think that is a very big possibility.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, you look at the stats here. I mean, Jake Allen has proven to honestly kind of be a little bit of a better goalie than Markstrom has this
Yeah.
past season. So it's going to be interesting. Really is. You have any final thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I think it should be a fun series. You have two teams with some pretty fun players to watch. Uh Again, all the talk we're talking about Carolina winning in 5 or 6, like you think. We're still looking at players that could, are fun to watch, right? Nico Hischier is fun to watch. Jesper Bratt's fun to watch. Dougie Hamilton's fun to watch. Carolina Svetch is fun to watch. He might not always score, but he's a fun player to watch. Taylor Hall, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake. This is Jackson Blake's first NHL playoff, so good for him. This is going to be really exciting for a young guy like Jackson Blake to get in and get some playoff games in, and that's going to be awesome for him. Goaltending wise, that's really going to be, I think that's the big question mark for both teams. And I think that could decide the series, right? New Jersey can win this series if Carolina's goaltending is really bad. And I think that's just something that's a reality that we're facing. But if Markstrom's really bad, then Carolina wins, and maybe they even win in 4 or 5, or even they might sweep. But if Carolina's goaltending's bad, this series could turn on its head real fast, and it could be
It
a
could.
problem.
Yeah,
But it's going to be a fun series, and it should be a fun series. These two teams are fun to watch.
it really is. And I think we saw, I mean, you look at the last playoff series we had with the Devils, that's probably what we're going to see in this series. It's not going to be an overtly physical type of series, but it's going to be a I think it's going to be more finesse than physical
Yeah,
type of series. And I do think Carolina has the edge when it comes to the skill. And also,
yeah,
I would say they have the edge when it comes to size.
yeah,
So it's going to be fun, Sam. I'm going to game one,
yeah,
and you're going to game two.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'm going to game one too.
oh, that's right. You are. I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be fun, fun, fun,
Yeah.
fun.
I'm telling you, playoff hockey in Lenovo is completely different
Yes,
than regular
completely agree.
season.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is. Well, fun little preview that we have here on a Saturday. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have broke our usual routine, but that's fine because it's a special time for the Hurricanes. Cannot wait. And the next time we're going to see you guys is going to be after game one.
Yes.
So we'll be recapping that game. So we will see you guys then.